There are only 2 game weeks left of the season, which is probably a relief for some of us, but some of us are also chasing rank. So let's look at some players I would recommend you to buy for the last 2 game weeks of the season. Make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. So looking at the fixture runs now, there's not many fixtures to look at. There are only 2 games left, and obviously the worst team in the league is the only good team to target. And because it's Wolves, you actually don't want to target their players. I mean, maybe Armstrong, he's been getting reliable minutes up front, but apart from that, I would not touch Wolves. They have nothing to play for, and they are terrible. But below them, we have Arsenal, who are chasing the Premier League title with plenty of good assets to choose from. I personally own 3 Arsenal players, and I have for their last 3 games, and they've kept me clean sheets. Probably the only, assets that have actually kept me afloat, because the rest of my team has been quite poor. Then we go a little lower to Fulham. They've not been great. Everton, once again, they're okay. Same with Leeds as well. All these players have some okay assets, but you don't punch the air in excitement looking at their players. As for Arsenal, you also have, the likes of Saka and Recoveries. But home to Burnley, yeah, it's an important game. They need to win it. But they don't need to start their best players for it. You could see the likes of Saka and Recoveries starting the game. But when they go 3-0 up in the first half, they'll probably take these players off. I mean, goal difference is important, so they might not. But rotation is there for those Arsenal players. Looking at teams like Forest and below, they're all kind of irrelevant. You definitely wouldn't target players from these teams. And you'd probably look to sell players from these teams as well to target some of the teams with the best fixtures. When you look at Brentford, who are just above Forest, there is some potential for, a good fixture on there. Home to Palace is obviously a good game, especially for the likes of Thiago. Then you look away to Liverpool, it's a red fixture. Liverpool are a good team. Anfield is a bit of a scary stadium, and they are one of the best teams in the league this season, despite how bad they've been compared to last season. They're still a tough team to face, especially when you're playing away. But Brentford have a lot to play for in Game Week 38. They want to fight for Europe, maybe even a Champions League spot if they're lucky enough. And Liverpool, they've not got anything to play for. Champions League is pretty much there. They're fine. They don't need to fight for points. They're going to be okay. So they may not have much to play for in Game Week 38. They may be completely fine, safe. They can rotate. They don't have any other competitions to play in. So Brentford could have a really good game here because everything will be on the line for them. Whereas Liverpool, they won't really care about the result at all. You've got City and Brighton above Brentford. Now, assets from these teams are looking quite strong. You're looking at Hinshelwood, Pascal Gross, Welbeck's been a bit meh. The defenders like Van Heck, he's also been really good. So even though they're 2 grey fixtures, they're not green, they're not amazing, some of their players could still be good to target. And obviously with Man City, everybody's already tripled up on Man City from the double game week, so we don't really need to talk about them too much. I definitely wouldn't recommend selling any of their players. Even though the fixtures aren't great, they're also not awful. We then go up to West Ham, Sunderland and Spurs, who have an okay fixture, then a really good one. Now, home to Leeds for West Ham is great because Leeds are going to be pretty much safe by then. They might be safe already, to be honest. West Ham have everything to play for in Game Week 38 because I don't think they'll be out of the relegation battle in Game Week 38. I mean, if Spurs win away to Chelsea and West Ham lose away to Newcastle, then that's it. West Ham won't have much to play for, but I don't see that happening. I do believe West Ham assets could be really good in Game Week 38, but away to Newcastle isn't especially easy. Sunderland players are all right. Away to Everton isn't actually that tough, but Sunderland have been pretty poor. And Spurs do have a lot to play for. Chelsea have been on awful form. The Everton defence isn't good. So a Spurs attacker could maybe be all right. But with the other teams, having good fixtures and those teams actually having good attackers, you probably wouldn't look to any of these teams. And the same goes for Chelsea, Newcastle and Man United. Man United have been a bit lackluster. We all own Bruno already, so we don't need to go there. Chelsea have been terrible and Newcastle have been far from it recently. So that's pretty much all there is to talk about. You've got your good teams, you've got the bad teams, and you've got the teams you kind of just want to ignore. Anyway, let's look at some players to buy. Going on to defenders, there are some good defenders to buy, but not many amazing ones. We've got Van Heck at the bottom now. Van Heck has been very good. He's been good for Defcons, he's been keeping the clean sheets. The Brighton defensive data is strong, but their fixture run isn't amazing, which is why he's at the bottom. We have Mukiel, who's on the same level as Van Heck, maybe even one below, but Mukiel does have a slightly better run of games, and he's got much better goal threat going forward. He's been one of the best defenders for goal scoring and getting goal involvements across the entire season, and he started the season at 4 million, so he's a very strong cheap asset. And then again, him and Van Heck are a similar price, so they're both good cheap assets, but I feel like with Mukiel, you have a slightly better run of games and much higher upside in terms of whether he's going to get a goal involvement or not. The one thing Van Heck has over Mukiel is the chance of a clean sheet, But looking at both their games, I don't think Brighton have a much higher chance of keeping a clean sheet than Sunderland. Above those two, just slightly, we have a Fulham defender. Now, 2 green fixtures, away to Wolves and home to Newcastle. Even though the Fulham defence isn't amazing, they still have a chance of a clean sheet in both these games, especially away to Wolves. The one small issue with Fulham is they don't have a ton to play for. Depending on whether 8th place gets a European spot or not, which I think depends on Aston Villa and how they do in the Europa League, if they win it or not, Fulham are technically only 3 points off a European spot, 3 points off 8th place. So they're definitely not just going to stop trying, you know. There's still a chance for them, and it gives them every right to still try their best because there is a chance. I would love to put Anderson here. In fact, I would have. He's the only Fulham defender good for DEFCONs, but he got a red card like an umpty, which kind of ruined my Wilson points because Wilson could have gone on to score a goal that game, but he didn't. Oh well, it's in the past. Castagna isn't good for DEFCONs. None of the Fulham defenders really are, but Castagna is the only one I can say that's reliable for minutes and actually has a chance of getting a goal involvement, even though that chance is quite small. Above him, we have Tarkowski. Now, Tarkowski is on par with Castagna. A lot of people would be surprised to see that because Tarkowski, you know, he just got a goal and an assist, and Everton are obviously a stronger defence than Fulham. Well, that's what you think. But recently, Everton in the last 8 games are a bottom 4 defence. Tarkowski's DEFCON numbers also don't have anything over the likes of Saliba, and Saliba isn't exactly a DEFCON demon either. So while Tarkowski is still a good player to own, and I know it sounds like I'm talking about how bad he is, but I feel like a lot of people think he's like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 transfer. And he's got good fixtures. Home to Sunderland is good for a clean sheet, which is why I've put him here in 2nd place. But don't expect, you know, goals from him. Don't expect any guaranteed clean sheets. He is good, but he's not sensational. But Saliba is. Now, Gabriel is blacklisted and I don't recommend goalkeeper transfers, so Raya isn't here either. Looking at an Arsenal triple up, you will look to Saliba in the defence. Gyökeres and Saka are good to own, right? But most teams, looking at if you have 2 Arsenal players, you probably have Gabriel plus one of those. And the next best player to buy isn't to go to Saka or Gyökeres. I think it's a double up on the Arsenal defence because the Arsenal defence is the strongest part about their team. And while Saka and Gyökeres are definitely good players to buy, I do think Saliba's better. He's safer for points. He's been very close to DEFCONs recently. So I think in general, he's the best defender to buy this game week. If you already have 3 Arsenal players, obviously don't go there. Gabriel is better to buy as well. Maybe even David Raya. In midfield, we have 4 players that I would put on par with each other. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall and Ryan Shirky, even though Shirky is at the top and Dewsbury-Hall is in 4th. I put them both in the same bracket on par. I don't know who to say really is better. It's honestly a coin toss. But Anton Stark is at the bottom. He still has 2 fairly good games. He can get DEFCONs, he can score, he can get assists. He has been playing out of position. He's not amazing. I have him in my team. I think he's good value for money. Just don't expect an absolute ton from this guy. He's only all right. Above him, we have some better options. Not amazing, but still pretty good. Dewsbury-Hall's data isn't amazing. I mean, he's getting decent goals, decent assists, like 0.5 assists per 90 in the last 4 games is good. But I wouldn't be surprised if in the last 2 games he got no goal involvements. That's not to say he won't, because he definitely could. If he did get a goal or an assist in the next 2 games, I wouldn't be surprised either. But he is cheap for a reason. You know, he's good value for money, but he's not amazing, okay? He's just all right. Saka is a lot better to own, but he costs a lot more. And like I said earlier, Saka probably will start home to Burnley, but how many minutes he'll get, we don't know. Home to Burnley is an amazing fixture and it makes Saka a potential captaincy option, especially looking at the underlying data. In terms of expected goals and big chances, he's not really there, but creatively, he is immense. You just have to watch out for his minutes. That's all I'm going to say. Even away to Palace, right? Away to Palace isn't easy, but you can safely assume that that is a must-win game for Arsenal and they are going to go all out, full strength 11. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Saka get at least somewhat reliable minutes in the next 2 game weeks. We then have Wilson. We already talked about the Fulham games. Like, they're pretty good. Away to Wolves and home to Newcastle are 2 good games for an attacker. But Wilson has been an early sub in the last 2 games, getting subbed off just after the 60th minute, which isn't ideal. And his underlying data isn't great either. But that game against Bournemouth, it was a bit weird. Both teams went down to 10 men. If they stayed with 11 men, Wilson could have been in the goals a lot more. But, you know, shoulda, woulda, coulda. It wasn't 11v10, it was 10v10. And the games before that have been quite tough for Fulham. So we can't really just look at this data and say, oh, he's a bad player. Because when he plays 2 good games, it could be a different story. So I still think Wilson is a great player to buy, despite recently him not being that good. Then we have Ryan Shirky, 2 average games, and he did get subbed off just before the 60th minute. And a lot of our Shirky owners missed out on 2-3 points because, you know, clean sheet point and an extra point for minutes. Unfortunately, he didn't reach that milestone, which is bad for game week 36. But in general, I don't think it's anything to worry about. His underlying data is still really good. You know, 0.63 expected goal involvements per 90 for someone only 6.5 million is great. It's just away to Bournemouth and home to Villa aren't two games you scream about, you know, they're just okay. If I had to pick just one of these players to have in my team and I didn't own any of them, it would come down to my budget. I would probably choose Saka if I had unlimited budget, but looking at the cheaper options, Dewsbury Hall, Wilson and Shirky, it's very tough to choose. I know most people would go Dewsbury Hall because he's been getting the goals and the assists, but I feel like Wilson and Shirky are also two very good options. Me personally, even though it's unpopular, I do think Wilson and Shirky are the best two, which is why I put them at the top. But the other options on here are also very good. Anton Stark is only really good if you need to buy someone under 5 million. Next up, onto the forwards, we have a similar situation. Guy at the bottom, he's okay, not great. And the four above him are all on par, all very good options. At the bottom, we have João Pedro. Now, he has been getting good underlying data. I say good, it's been all right. He is probably the only good player in that Chelsea attack, and I believe he's reliable for minutes. A good player to take advantage of these last two games, but he's definitely not a top 3 striker, and there's only 3 forwards you can own. We have Beto above him. Beto has been on amazing form, but he can be an early sub. We've seen that. Either way, home to Sunderland and away to Tottenham are 2 good games for a starting striker who's on good form, averaging more than 1 big chance per 90. It's very good underlying data, and I do believe he could easily be the best forward on this list, but I've put him below the others because I personally just don't want to go there. Everton, in general, aren't great right now. They're not playing like a team that's fighting for Europe. They're not good enough, in my opinion. And Beto, while he has been good, it could just be point chasing. He may not be good in the last 2 games, especially with Barry on somewhat decent form after that brace against Man City. We then have Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's been all right, not been getting loads of bonus points, but he's been scoring the goals. Fair enough, they have been penalties, but a striker scoring goals is a striker scoring goals nonetheless. He is on fairly decent form, and the next 2 games aren't bad at all. He's also much more reliable for minutes than Beto. Now, Thiago and Gyökeres, I did talk about Thiago already. Away to Liverpool is a red fixture, but come game week 38, Liverpool may not be trying. The issue with Thiago is his data isn't great, and he was chasing the golden boot, but he's kind of lost that race now, so there's less motivation there, if you will. But I do think Brentford have a lot to play for, and home to Palace is a great fixture, so Thiago is still making his way up here. Then we have Gyökeres, and we already know why Gyökeres is here. He plays home to Burnley, but once again, the minutes thing could be an issue. Havertz could just start over, you know, Gyökeres playing home to Burnley because Arteta thinks it's tactically appropriate. We don't know. But if Gyökeres does start, he could be in for many goals, you know. Home to Burnley is a very easy fixture for any striker. But we need to be aware of his minutes. If he only plays 30 minutes, then you've kind of just made a bad transfer. But if he starts, then you've made an amazing transfer. And another issue is he also costs a lot. So what you guys choose out of all these strikers to be your striker to buy, I personally would choose Thiago because I can't afford Gyökeres. And while Calvert-Lewin and Beto are also really good options, I don't need to buy them because I can afford Thiago, even though he's $1.5 million, 2 million more. He's definitely worth it in my opinion. Now looking at captaincy options, we're going to be looking at 2. And all after Gyökeres, all after Saka, I don't think they're safe captaincy options. Like, you definitely could make them your captain if they start and play a lot of minutes, then it's going to be worth it. But I don't think they will. I think there's a chance, but I don't think it's worth the risk when there's other good captaincy options. So for that reason, I'm not going to recommend Gyökeres or Bukayo Saka. We're going to look at 2 other players. And first up, we're going to be looking at another Arsenal player, which is Gabriel. Now, Gabriel will play the full 90. I'd much rather him get subbed off at the 60th minute because that means you can guarantee a clean sheet earlier on. But I don't think the clean sheet is really in doubt home to Burnley. I know they were a bit shaky against West Ham and they probably should have conceded, but away to West Ham is a lot scarier than home to Burnley. And like I said, Arsenal need to win this game. They're not going to rotate. They're the best team in the league, or, you know, one of the best teams in the league, playing home to what is arguably the worst team in the league. I think it's a pretty safe clean sheet. Gabriel was also so good for bonus points and defcons, right? He got 11 points last game week. He didn't get a goal involvement or anything. He got defcons and 3 bonuses. It's ridiculous how this guy is like attracting points like a magnet. Even though it's home to Burnley and you may not think defcons are as prevalent for him in this fixture, don't be fooled, don't be mistaken. He will find a way. Not to mention, Gabriel is obviously a set piece threat. He can get goals, he can get assists. We've seen it all season. so many avenues to go down to get points, and he's reliable for minutes. I believe even though he's a centre-back, he still has the highest points per game this season. You know, much better than any Arsenal player. He's up there with Haaland and Bruno Fernandes for points per game. So I think even though he is just a centre-back, he is still the best captaincy choice from Arsenal. The next player we're looking at is actually not going to be Haaland. It's going to be Bruno Fernandes. I think away to Bournemouth isn't really a captaincy-worthy fixture. I know Man City need goals and Haaland is on good form. You know, home to Brentford, he did get a goal and an assist. But that assist wasn't, you know, really thanks to him. You know, Marmoush had a good goal. That's all it was, and Haaland was the guy who happened to pass to him. Bruno Fernandes, on the other hand, plays an easier game. His underlying data is still pretty good. He's on penalties, on free kicks, on corners, and even though they don't have Champions League football to play for right now, they've already secured it, they still have a lot to play for. Bruno's chasing the assist record. Carrick wants to prove he deserves the Man United job, and there's a lot of attackers that want to prove they deserve to start too. United aren't just going to roll over and take it easy. They're still going to try their best to finish as high as possible, and I truly believe that Bruno home to Forest is arguably the best captaincy option along with Gabriel. Like I said, Gyökeres and Saka may be worth it. Even Haaland, if you want to go there for safety, you can, but I'm not going to recommend him because I personally don't think he's a top 3 captaincy option. I think after Gabriel and Bruno, you would look to rotation risks in Gyökeres and Saka, then Haaland maybe in 5th. So these are the 2 I'm recommending. Bruno or Gabriel, I've still not decided. I'll decide in my team selection video in a couple of days time, but right now, it's actually quite tough to choose between these 2. I want you guys to let me know what you think in the comments about the players to buy I've recommended, the captaincy options. Let me know if you agree, let me know if you disagree, and I will see you all in the next video.